Welcome back to the Aurora Public Library District's three-part series, New Wave Memories. Here we begin with the second installment, Let's Go, 1979 through 1980. By this point in time, punk was absorbed by New Wave since the industry felt this was a more user-friendly label. As we saw in Part 1, New Wave records were doing pretty good business in Britain, but American audiences were still very small. The States can sometimes be awfully slow on the uptake. One of the best examples that comes to mind is Capitol Records' refusal to issue the first 4 Beatles singles on their own label. Capitol only released the 5th recording when ordered to by their parent company, EMI. The result? The biggest selling single of 1964. So here with New Wave, we have America resisting and repeating itself all over again. New Wave's acceptance on these shores was a direct result of economics. Most of the 70s was a banner period for the record industry. By 1979, though, the massive sales they'd enjoyed for almost a decade were declining. Question: is it more economically feasible to promote acts who will spend months and several $100,000 to record an album, or on one of these New Wave acts who can record an album in a matter of weeks and will deliver product at a fraction of the cost, and therefore not aid into company profits? The answer should be obvious. At any rate, pushing New Wave music was one of the solutions the recording industry embraced to fight the downturn. As we left the first segment of this presentation, the Cars came so close to a major American breakthrough in the last portion of 1978. They released a 3rd single from their debut album, All Rock and Roll Hair and Letting the Good Times Roll. Despite the top 40 performance of the 2 preceding records, this one fell short, peaking at number 41. The glory was not to be theirs. 2002's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees, the Talking Heads, crashed the top 40 early in 1979 with their cover of Al Green's Take Me to the River. This one landed at number 26, which was to date the highest charting New Wave single in America. The Talking Heads would return to the Hot 100 later in the year with Life During Wartime that peaked at number 80 for 2 weeks. Blondie must have been pretty tired of the big success overseas and then watching as all of their singles tanked here at home. For 1979, they took an old song they'd never quite gotten right in earlier incarnations, then married its New Wave sensibility with a Eurodisco beat. Purists were offended by the mixture of styles, but Heart of Glass not only became America's first top 10 New Wave hit, the song went on to the number 1 slot in April, then on to gold record status. In total, Heart of Glass was a number 1 single in 8 countries. Here in America, at last, the door was now opening for other New Wavers. Through the years, there have been many edits and remix versions of Heart of Glass. By far the best one to have is the original 5-minute 50-second disco version that towards the end of the song includes the line, "Soon turned out to be a pain in the ass." In the official video, you can see Deborah Harry sing these words, but they were overdubbed for more mass consumption. Blondie would place 2 more singles in the top 30 before the end of the year, One Way or Another, number 24, and Dreaming at number 27. Check out Clem's Burke's drumming on the video for Dreaming. The man deserves a Nobel Prize. On the album charts, Parallel Lines that included Heart of Glass and One Way or Another hit number 6. The follow-up later in the year, Eat to the Beat, peaked at number 17. A major factor in Blondie's chart success was the presence of their photogenic lead singer, Deborah Harry. Public and media attention became so focused on her that the band attempted to fix the situation with the slogan, "Blondie is a group." The effort was not terribly successful. Blondie may have opened the door to other New Wave acts, but with the exception of Britain's The Fabulous Poodles' Mirror Star, that charted at number 81 in May, nothing else made any impact until late summer. The Cars returned to the fray with Let's Go, and saw their 4th single break them into the top 20, landing at number 14 in September. The major explosion came courtesy of a California band, the Knack. Their debut single, My Sharona, hit a nerve with an American public growing increasingly tired of the ubiquitous disco thump, and the song blasted to the #1 spot, holding that position for 6 weeks to become the biggest selling record of 1979. The album it was from, Get the Knack, released on Capitol, was recorded in 2 weeks at a cost of $18,000. See, big profits. And it was certified gold in 13 days. The album went on to move over 1 million copies in less than 2 months, proving that there was gold in the New Wave hills. Despite this massive success, there was a backlash brewing thanks to the very obvious Beatle references on both the front and back covers of Get the Knack, and by Capitol's use of the old mid-60s Rainbow album label on the disc, the same label that appeared on all of the early Beatle releases. To many, it appeared that the Knack was trying to set itself up as the musical reincarnation of the Fab Four, and if you're going to attempt to do that, you really need to have the chops to make good on the claim. Was the Knack up to this challenge? In a word, no. They placed a second song in the top 20 before the end of the year, the #11 Good Girls Don't, that put their misogyny on oral display, only adding more fuel to a growing campaign calling itself Nuke the Knack. Please note, in the link to the official video for Good Girls Don't at the end of this presentation, the lyrics were changed so they weren't quite so offensive. Already, there were those who saw the group's image as too contrived and their attitude too brash. Thanks to My Sharona, songs like it were grouped into a subgenre of new wave labeled power pop. Due to the increasing backlash against the Knack, records that fell into the power pop rubric found themselves facing a harder time in getting their singles to get airplay or sales. At any rate, given the huge success of the Knack, the door was now wide open for other new wave acts, and several of them took full advantage of the by now wider spread acceptance. Joe Jackson, a Brit of the Angry Young Man school, had a #21 hit with Is She Really Going Out With Him? His album, Look Sharp, peaked at #20 on the Billboard album chart and was certified gold in September of 1979. Other American top 20 singles in late '79 included Nick Lowe's Cruel to Be Kind, #12 for 3 weeks from the album Labor of Lust. The video for this selection features some very tongue-in-cheek shots about his marriage to Carlene Carter, daughter of legendary country music star June Carter Cash and wife of Johnny Cash. Sniffin' the Tears had a #15 hit with Driver's Seat. This is one of the few singles that performed better in the US because the band's label didn't have the record pressed to coincide with the group's appearance on the Pops TV show in Britain. A bigger success was courtesy of Robin Scott, also known as M. Pop music was born from a desire to make a fusion of styles which somehow would summarize the last 25 years of pop music. The record is a quirky, danceable song that became the third American #1 single of the new wave genre. Interestingly, except for Blondie, The Cars, and The Knack, all of the other US top 20 hits were by 4 artists from overseas. Other US chart action had The Cars reaching #41 with It's All I Can Do, the Scottish Head Boys, The Shape of Things to Come, #79, Moon Martin's Rolene, #30, the Records' Starry Eyes, #56, and The Shoes' Too Late, #75. Bram Tchaikovsky, formerly of the Motors, scored with Girl of My Dreams at #37. One final entry on the US charts for 1979 was the Buggles' Video Killed the Radio Star. Despite a rather modest peak at #40, this song, because of its subject matter, became the first video aired on the newly minted MTV cable station in 1981. Turning to UK chart action, the Boomtown Rats had one of their biggest hits with the number one, I Don't Like Monday. This song was inspired by a school shooting in San Diego. The record reached the top 10 in several countries around the world, and it became the only Boomtown Rats song to hit the Hot 100 here in the United States, peaking at number 73. Their follow-up, Diamond Smiles, reached number 13 in Britain. Blondie was back, scoring 3 more top 10s during the year with Heart of Glass at number 1, the second best-selling single of the year. Sunday Girl became their second number 1, and Dreaming climbed up to number 2. Union City Blue followed at number 13. The US hit One Way or Another was also released in the UK, but as the fourth single from the Parallel Lines album, it only just managed to get on the charts at number 98. The Jam scored with their first UK top 10, The Eton Rifles, at number 3. Ian Drury also had a number 3 hit with Reasons to Be Cheerful, Part 3. The biggest newcomer of the year was Gary Newman, sometimes with the Tubeway Army. Newman charted 3 top 10s in 1979, Our Friends Electric, number 1, Cars, number 1, and Complex, number 6. Newman's very androgynistic look resulted from his first appearance on British television. He showed up with a very bad case of acne, which was covered up with massive amounts of makeup, and that made it necessary to outline his eyes with black. He liked the look, so he decided to run with it. After Is She Really Going Out With Him hit number 13 in Joe Jackson's homeland, his It's Different for Girls got up to number 5 later in the year. The Flying Lizards covered Barrett Strong's 1960 Motown hit, that label's first top 40. The band's new version of Money featured a robotic vocal from Deborah Evans Strickland, and it peaked at number 5. Elvis Costello finally had a top 10 entry with Oliver's Army at number 2 from the number 2 album, Armed Forces. A new band called The Tourists, featuring Annie Lennox and Dave Stewart, later of the Eurythmics fame, had a number 4 hit with a cover of Dusty Springfield's I Only Want to Be With You. One new wave offshoot started making some noise overseas in 1979. The two-tone movement began in Coventry, England by merging Jamaican ska, punk, and new wave influences. Many of the bands that fell into this subgenre were interracial in their makeup. The Specials kicked off the style with 2 1979 hits, Gangsters at number 6 and Message to You, Rudy at number 10. Madness had 3 hits, The Prince at number 16, One Step Beyond at number 7, and My Girl, number 3. A third two-tone band, The Beat, or the English Beat here in America, cracked the British top 10 with another Motown cover, Tears of a Clown, number 6. The Clash had become a regular chart feature, but they had only made the top 20 in Britain once before with 1978's Tommy Gun at number 19. In 1979, they would rack up the biggest hit of their active homeland career with London Calling, number 11. The Stranglers Duchess was a number 14 hit, and it would be their last major single for a few years. Jimmy Jones by the Undertones peaked at number 16. The Jags from Bournemouth scored with the number 17 Back of My Hand. Nick Lowe racked up 2 top 40 British singles with Cracking Up, number 34, and Cruel to Be Kind, number 12, just as it had been here in the United States. Billy Idol's band Generation X charted their biggest hit with King Rocker, number 11. The Dam closed out the top 20 entries for 1979 with Love Song, number 20. Moving into 1980, well, since we've been dealing with the British charts, we'll stay over there for a bit. There was a lot of chart action overseas for new wave acts. Blondie continued their winning streak with 3 number ones: Atomic, Call Me, and The Tide is High. The Jam racked up their first 2 number ones with Going Underground and Start, which is basically a reworking of the guitar lead in George Harrison's Taxman. The Pretenders, an American-English combo led by Akron, Ohio native Chrissie Hynde, a former worker at the New Musical Express, released Brass in Pocket, I'm Special, which spent 2 weeks at the number 1 spot. The Specials gave the two-tone movement its first number 1 with Too Much, Too Young, and finished out 1980 with 3 more top 10 singles: Rat Race, number 5, Stereotype International Jet Set, number 6, and Do Nothing, Maggie's Farm, number 4. The 2 other major two-tone acts got into the action, with Madness scoring number 3 with Baggy Trousers and number 4 with Embarrassment. The English Beat had hits Hands Off, She's Mine, number 9, the fantastic Mirror in the Bathroom, number 4, and Too Nice to Talk To, number 7. Other top 10 British hits in 1980 were M's Pop Music, number 2, Turning Japanese by the Vapors, number 3, and Games Without Frontiers by Peter Gabriel, number 4. The Boomtown Rats had 2 chart appearances in 1980. Someone's Looking at You, number 4, and Banana Republic. The Tourists were back with So Good to Be Back Home Again at number 8. Martha and the Muffins cracked the charts with the number 10 Echo Beach. Gary Newman racked up 2 more hits with We Are Glass, number 5, and I Die, You Die, number 6. Elvis Costello's cover of an old Sam and Dave hit, I Can't Stand Up for Falling Down, hit number 4. The big breakout act in Britain for 1980 was Adam and the Ants. They were handled by Malcolm McLaren, the Sex Pistols' former manager. Despite the band's very high camp and sexually suggestive stage shows, and the fact that the group was dismissed as a joke thanks to their pirate gear and makeup, Adam's crew hit the top 10 3 times with Dog Eat Dog, number 4, Ant Music, number 2, and Young Parisians, number 9. McLaren also began promoting another act, Bow Wow Wow, featuring members of Adam and the Ants who were persuaded to leave that group. A 6-month audition process followed to find a lead singer, and 13-year-old Annabella Lewin got the nod after she was heard singing along to the radio in a laundromat. Initially, she was not the only lead singer, as George O'Dowd was also part of the lineup for a brief period. After leaving Bow Wow Wow, O'Dowd would become world famous in Culture Club under the moniker Boy George. At any rate, Bow Wow Wow would crack the British Top 40 with a song called C30, C60, C90, Go, a song celebrating the joys of home taping. Not exactly the sort of thing record labels wanted to promote. This recording was the world's first cassette-only single for a bit, and it peaked at number 34. The Clash was back in the top 20 with Bank Robber at number 12. Susie and the Banshees' Happy House was a number 17 hit, and Joy Division peaked at number 13 with Love Will Tear Us Apart. The Buggles followed Video Killed the Radio Star with The Plastic Age, a number 16 hit. Back over here, Blondie continued their winning streak, albeit rather off and on. Their first single of 1980 was The Hardest Part. That only reached number 84. This was followed by Call Me, theme song from the movie American Gigolo. Thanks to a 6-week run at the number 1 spot, Call Me became the biggest selling single of the year, making 2 years in a row. This feat was accomplished by new wave acts. A third Blondie single, Atomic, peaked at number 30. Deborah Harry still dominated most of the attention paid to the band and was already being touted as the face of the 80s. Despite a spate of new wave singles released during the year, only one other song made the American top 10 in 1980. Gary Newman, a true pioneer of electronic music and a major sensation in the UK, saw his number one single Over There hit number 9 in the States. Cars was his only single to crack Billboard's Hot 100 in a career that is still active today. Only two other acts cracked the top 20 in America. The Pretenders had a number 14 hit here with Brass in Pocket, I'm Special. Their follow-up, a cover of the Kinks song, Stop Your Sobbing, stalled at number 65. At the year end, Devo also scored at number 14 with Whip It. One result of the growing popularity of New Wave was its adoption by more established artists. The biggest winner in this sweepstakes by far was Billy Joel. The New Wave inflected It's Still Rock and Roll to Me became his first number one single, and his Glass Houses album featured several tunes that also reflected a similar musical influence. Linda Ronstadt's Mad Love was virtually all New Wave covers or older tunes recorded in a New Wave style, and it included 3 Elvis Costello songs. She'd hit the top 10 with How Do I Make You, number 10, and Hurt So Bad, number 8. One newcomer riding the bandwagon was Pat Benatar, who released 2 singles in 1980, Heartbreaker and the very Blondie-esque We Live for Love. Both songs placed in the top 30 at number 23 and number 27 for 2 weeks, respectively. Athens, Georgia's B-52s combined surf music and pop kitsch into a very danceable mix, and the band debuted nationally with Rock Lobster at number 56, and a number 20 hit on Chicago's WLS radio station. This was followed by Private Idaho, peaking on the Hot 100 at number 74. Stateside, the group saw its biggest successes on the U.S. dance chart. Their Give Me Back My Man, Party Out of Bounds, and Private Idaho were number 5 hits, while Rock Lobster, Dance This Mess Around, and Planet Claire peaked at number 24. Other New Wave winners on the dance chart included London Calling by The Clash, number 30, Devo's Freedom of Choice, and Whip It, both peaking at number 8. The English Beat had 3 songs reach number 22, Mirror in the Bathroom, Hands Off She's Mine, and Twist and Crawl. My suspicion here with all of these songs ranked at the same number is that they were mixed into one continuous play, and so they did not chart separately. Back at the Hot 100, the Cars had a brief run with Touch and Go, number 37. The Clash finally made their breakthrough in America courtesy of Train in Vain, Stand By Me, number 23. Their London Calling album, a number 9 hit at home and number 27 here stateside, was named by Rolling Stone as the best album of the decade in an evaluation of the records released during the late 1980s. The Flying Lizards' 1979 UK hit, Money, made the top 50 here at number 50. Another British transplant was the Jags' Back of My Hand, that reached number 84 in the US. The Inmates scored with a cover of the Standells' 1966 hit, Dirty Water, number 51. The much maligned Knack charted their last top 40 single with Baby Talks Dirty at number 38. The band would release 3 more 45s before breaking up over the abysmal sales of their subsequent songs and LPs. Note to self, do not ever saddle yourself with the new Beatles label. You are doomed to failure. One surprising minor hit is a song that most people are probably familiar with. At number 38. The band would release 3 more 45s before breaking up over the abysmal sales of their subsequent songs and LPs. Note to self, do not ever saddle yourself with the new Beatles label. You are doomed to failure. One surprising minor hit is a song most are probably familiar with. Detroit natives The Romantics' What I Like About You only reached number 49, but the song became widely known some years later when licensed for a Budweiser commercial. Surprisingly, the Romantics had their biggest success with the song in Australia, where it reached number 2 on that chart. A band called Spider had a couple of hits, New Romance number 39, and Everything Is Alright number 86. Spider's greatest claim to fame, however, is a song that appeared on their second album, Better Be Good to Me. Tina Turner covered the tune for her Private Dancer LP, and her version of the song peaked at number 5. Tommy Two-Tone, a band, not an individual, had a number 38 hit with Angels Say No. They would be back with an even bigger hit in 1982. The King Bees hit number 81 with My Mistake, a song that actually topped the charts in Detroit. The band's career stalled when their label RSO folded after the release of a second LP. Split Enz from New Zealand had seen some on-again, off-again success in their homeland and Australia. Once leader Tim Finn was convinced to recruit his younger brother Neil to replace some members who jettisoned, the group was poised for a major breakthrough. The new lineup recorded the True Colors album, and their record label was less than enthusiastic about the result, feeling they had wasted 34,000 Aussie dollars on the project, and that there wasn't a commercial single in the whole bunch. I Got You proved them wrong. It became the biggest selling record of 1980 in Australia and was a number 12 hit in the UK. The song reached number 53 stateside. Split Enz also has the distinction of being the first band to make videos of all the songs on the True Colors album and to release them on a VHS cassette. Lastly, the Tourist cover of I Only Want to Be With You stalled at number 83. As noted with Rock Lobster above, some of these songs had a much greater chart impact here in the Midwest thanks to WLS radio station. The Clash's Train in Vain, Stand By Me, number 23 nationally, was number 15 on the WLS playlist. Peter Gabriel's Games Without Frontiers, at number 48 US, was number 5 for 2 weeks in Chicago. Brass in Pocket, I'm Special by the Pretenders was number 4 for 4 weeks here, as opposed to number 14 on the nationwide survey. Devo's Whip It, a number 14 hit, sat at number 2 for 3 weeks at the station. The Flying Lizards' Money peaked at number 18, and the Knacks' Baby Talks Dirty fared better here, reaching number 11 for 2 weeks. Two songs that were receiving big airplay at WLS at the same time have ever since been linked in my mind as a pair. The Vapors' Turning Japanese, number 36 on Billboard, was number 4 for 3 weeks. And the Kings' This Beat Goes On, switching to Glide, number 43 nationally, was number 9. My co-worker, Tony Camardo, worked in the record industry at that time, and I asked him for some of his memories of this song. His response follows. Why did this record become a success in Chicago and the outlying area while the rest of the country pretty much ignored it? Mainly because of the record company personnel based in Chicago and because the record retailers who got behind the band and the record. At that time, I was about 25 years old and recently promoted to singles specialist for the Warner Elektra Atlantic Corps. My job was to sell 45 RPM singles, the little record with the big hole, to rack jobbers, remember the rows? And all retailers in the Midwest. I was also responsible for billboard reports and radio reports, more on that. The other part of my job was to create a perception of our music to radio stations, and the big radio station that could sell singles from Kansas City to Minneapolis was WLS. Their AM signal was one of the strongest in the country, and therefore their influence was huge. When WLS added a record, it would be a minimum of 1,000 singles ordered by each local rack jobber, and the juke operators would also buy in. But those of us in the industry knew that WLS stood for World's Last Station, because they didn't take chances. They were very conservative in what they played. What I knew was that WLS sent out a survey to almost every Chicagoland music retailer, large and small. This survey asked the retailers to list the top 25 singles according to their weekly sales. The station would see the impact of a record's rotation, how many times it was played on the air, and see if the sales matched the spends and how that correlation was reflected in consumer demand. If the station played it often but there were few sales, they knew that the audience wasn't interested. Another tool that WLS used was call-in requests. They always asked listeners to call and sometimes put their voices on the air. Now when this single, This Beat Goes On Switching to Glide, first arrived to us and was introduced by our electric co-workers, the song itself immediately created an office-wide buzz, and it was heard on every turntable in the office. It didn't hurt that two admin people in the office were named Judy and Donna. When a song would generate that much fun and excitement, all we wanted to do was work it to the nth degree, so we went to work. Promotion worked it hard at the smaller markets surrounding WLS. Sales put the album out in bulk, and I started what I was really good at, creating perception, because perception is reality. Or as I like to say, I predicted the truth. My tactic was to ask the Chicago retailers for their support in reporting the King's single higher than what actual sales were. Well, okay, I had to bribe a few with concert tickets, promos, t-shirts, whatever it was I promised. Because in the beginning sales were non-existent, but suddenly it started to rise a little every week on the survey list. And I also got the entire office to call the WLS request line to request the record. I even got friends to call in. Remember, this was before caller ID, so the station couldn't tell where the calls were coming from. So it all worked. The record went up the WLS chart until it finally reached a critical mass for them to play it. When people hear a record and they like it, they buy it. Hence, predicting the truth. We also had displays up in every retail location, bribed for constant in-store play, and paid to have it on sale and advertised in local newspapers. We brought the band in to play a few shows, Park West, Beginnings, and we invited all our retail friends. We even rented a Mercedes and invited ladies, radio listeners, for a ride with Zero. Honestly, retail people played a huge part too, because they would not only play the record in store because they liked it, they would talk it up to customers as well. That's how we broke a record in my day. Unfortunately, Chicago was never a starting point for a record. Records broke out of New York or LA or sometimes the South. It was almost like if it started here, other markets immediately thought it had to be bad. We all received a local gold plaque for our work, and it was a blast and something we were all very proud to be a part of. We were all so blessed to be in the business of making hits and listening to music. It would be remiss of me to leave out one last major WLS hit single by a local band called Off-Broadway USA. Their song, Stay in Time, only reached number 51 on Billboard, but performed so well in the Midwest that WLS listed it as their 10th biggest single of 1980. This concludes our survey of New Wave in 1979 and 1980. Be sure to come back for our last installment in the series, where we will go over the final glory days of the genre.